Hello, I'm just about to take this out for its maiden flight. This is Homeslice 7 now, I guess, and it's built roughly inspired by Homeslice 1, which was the one that had a sort of a pod in the middle, which was in turn inspired by the Skyhunter style design, being a twin boom and stuff. But with this one, what I wanted to do was come back and revisit that with the benefit of having about a year and a half of more experience with the fiberglassing and building techniques and stuff. So it's ended up being kind of a blend between Homeslice 1 and Homeslice 4, in that it's a twin boom with the booms nicely glued in there. The servo cable's going in through this 8mm tube out to the back there. It's an A-tail. One of the problems with making these things on OpenVSP is that it doesn't render things in perspective like we're looking at here. It renders them in orthographic. And it makes the tail often look a bit bigger because when I'm viewing it, I'm kind of viewing it from the front like this most of the time. So that tail, I'm kind of wondering, it might be a little bit small, especially in the yaw direction. So we might see a little bit of yaw wagging or yaw instability or something like that, but I don't think it'd be too bad, so it should fly. What else have we done here that's different? Not too much. I managed to get the fuselage. This is the first time I've managed this, but the fuselage blends perfectly flush into the back of the wing, so that's all nice and flat there. And then it just goes zip like that, straight off the back. That's what I was trying to do with Homeslice 1, but I couldn't really get it done. Anyway, it works this time. The front of this is also nicely blended in here too, and we just have a look at this. Basically, same old story inside there. This nose is probably a little bit longer than it should be. Some people pointed this out in one of my previous community posts about this, and I was thinking that myself, but I wasn't too worried about it because historically making a plane nose heavy enough is the problem, and usually you end up with it being too tail heavy. But in this case I've kind of ended up with the other problem, so it's a little bit on the nose heavy side, I think, especially because of the battery that I'm going to have to use. So I just put on the motor that I had available for this, which is a 2212, a little bit small, and it's a 900 and something kV, so it doesn't really, I don't think it's going to get enough thrust on 3S. So my plan was to use this one, and if I'm using this, the battery has to go all the way up the front, which is great because when I put a camera on here later to add more weight, then the battery can just go back. But with this one, which is what I'm going to use today, that's a 4S 5 amp, and it's a little bit heavy and it has to go all the way back here, so kind of inconvenient. So I'm going to have to change that motor later on to something that I can use with a 3S battery. But anyway, probably not too much else to say. Actually, I'll just show you the bottom before we go, because this is something that is a little bit different to Homeslice 1. Homeslice 1, this kind of blended itself into the wings a bit more. But here it is very much just a sharp right angle down, or 90 degrees between here and here. And there's just a small bit of filleting along there. And the idea is just to keep it very slim in this section. And this is also a little bit more slender than Homeslice 1 was. And so because of the lack of material here now compared to Homeslice 1 without the blended in part, I thought it would be fairly weak around this area, so what I've done is put a piece of plywood in here that goes back down under there fairly deep into the fuselage to make it just sort of reinforce this area and give something more solid for the spar here, which is just at the back of the hatch, to sort of grab into and hold everything together. And I put a fair bit of glass around this bit here and also along here, because this bit right here is probably going to be stress riser or whatever point that's going to be fairly susceptible to breaking, I would think. At the back here I've left this just a fully smooth sort of a cone shape going down like that, which is great for flying but not so great for landing because it means that the prop's probably going to strike on the ground. So the original plans called for putting this into there, and you can see I've left, this is just full of, like, there's a piece of foam with some of that lightweight putty on top of it, so if I wanted to I could still put this in there. And the idea is that it would just sort of keep the prop from striking, hopefully. But I'm not going to bother with that for now. I think I'll just fly the plane as it is and just see how it goes. Oh, and finally, one other thing. I keep remembering things that are a little bit different to the other planes. Another thing that's different is that the bottom of the wing, the whole bottom of the wing here from about this point back is perfectly flat. And I did that just to make it easier for construction. I don't think it's going to really affect flying that much, but anyway, the airfoil on this plane is closer to a Clark Y than I had on any of my other Homeslice planes, which all had a little bit of a full curve on the bottom of the wing. Oh, and the control surfaces are all done with peel ply this time instead of Kevlar. Seems to be sufficient. And the ones at the back have quite a bit of travel. Oh, actually travel's not so high right now, but they're very large. And that's because I was worried that the tail might be a bit small surface-wise. So hopefully that should be enough to compensate for it.
Here's a side-by-side with the Mini Talon to give you an idea of the size. The wingspan is 158 centimeters, and the weight without the battery is 1,050 grams, which is actually 100 grams lighter than Homeslice 1, even though it has 10 centimeters more wingspan and it's fully covered in fiberglass. And the surface skin of the wings and everything is a lot smoother, so the experience that I've gained over the last year or couple of years is definitely showing, I think.
Well, the wind is not being very agreeable today. It's one of those days where the weather forecast had little small arrows pointing every which way. And usually what that means is that there's going to be no wind at all. So I really like to see that. But today what it means is that there's going to be wind every which way. Seems like every few minutes it changes. So I'm just waiting for it to change in a direction where I can throw downhill there a bit easier. Here goes. Oh, come on. Now it's blowing against me. Whoa. That was weird. I was looking over there and I heard a noise like a whale spout. You know when a whale comes to the surface of the water and they go poof, and I looked over and there was like a big puff of dust coming off the road there, just like a whale spout. And then right after that there was a big huge gust of wind going through like that. Alright. Okay, I think I'm just going to have to throw it into a tailwind, which is not great, but it's the best we're going to get today, I think. Very nice handhold for throwing this one. It's underpowered, unfortunately. That's 3/4 throttle, which feels like what's about necessary to keep it up. Oh no, it is rising though, so hang on. It got far away quite quickly. The wind must be fairly strong up there, and it's very touchy and roll, and pitch is not very responsive. That's what I'm feeling at the moment. I don't know how it got way up there so quick. I'm thinking maybe there was a thermal or something that went past and it's just sort of pulled it all the way up there quite quickly, and I'm slightly under half throttle. See if we can come down. Oh, I'm not liking this pitch control. But it looks like the yaw stability is okay. There's definitely some strange wind going on. Shit, it's quite fast, isn't it? So that's 4S, about a 900 kV motor, and 8x6 prop. In both pitch and roll, it's just sort of every now and then, or all the time really, it's just sort of bouncing around. Glide. Ooh. Didn't slow down much, that's good. Roll off the power here, glide for a little bit and then pull stick all the way back. Uh-oh. Okay, that wasn't very nice. It dropped the wing. Let's try a bit of full throttle. Didn't really pick up too much more speed than half throttle. Nice big dive. Oh, you can hear the prop. A rudder turn. Oh, not good, not good. Yep, likes to drop a wing. And I think part of the reason might be is the wing tips are quite fat, which I
kind of made a bit of a mistake with there. I didn't quite sand them the way I should have. So this plane's not going to be much of a slow flyer. And then over there we get into bumps and sink. Look at that. Oh boy. See if we can just glide. No, look at the bumpiness. I'm not sure if that stall was caused by wind actually. That's the other problem with doing flight testing on a windy, gusty day like this. Might have just been the wind that caused that. So let's power off and gradually pull all the way back on the throttle to there, all the way back on the throttle here. Yep, that's not particularly good, is it? But what I've found though is that there's a compromise between stall stability and efficiency. Well, at least if the Skywalker Falcon is anything to go by, that was very efficient, but it was horrible for stall stability. So the question I guess now is RGPilot able to get out of that stall or that spin or whatever? Because if it's not, what that means is I'm going to have to dedicate one of my switches to always being manual mode, which kind of sucks. Gliding. This wasn't supposed to be a good glider or anything, and I saw as I was shaping those wingtips that they weren't quite right. Like there's no washout whatsoever. This is just gliding here, by the way. And I wasn't too worried about it because this plane, rather than gliding around the place, oh holy shit! Oh, look at that bumpiness, jeez. Rather than being a glider to do thermaling and stuff, just gliding still here, by the way, as I'm saying that it's not supposed to be a glider. Yeah, this was supposed to be more of a motor on all the time plane, more like the Mini Talon. Okay, let's see if we can land it from there. That would be quite a feat. I don't think it's going to happen, is it? Maybe. This is heading upwind here. Motor off, by the way. All this time is. Oh shit! Look at that. It's still too high. Even I'm going to have to come down. Oh. Yeah. Okay. That concludes the maiden flight of the Homeslice 7. Lucky 7. No damage. That's a great start at least. So yeah, could use some fins on the back, a little bit of vertical on the tail. The motor situation's not very good. I'd like to change that to something that's a bit beefier than a 2212, like maybe a 2216 with higher kV, so I can use 3S battery. Then the battery itself will be lighter. I can put it up the front. The whole plane will be lighter overall. It's flying at about 1500 grams, 1530 at the moment, and that's probably the sweet spot, I would think. Actually, maybe a little bit heavier would be even better. But with the 3S battery, it was 1300 grams total. So today, with the gusts and everything, would have flown worse, I think, with the 3S anyway. Okay, I'm out here a second time, later in the evening now. It's not really such a great sky for filming, kind of dark there, but strangely, even though the weather forecast said it was going to be windier this evening, it's pretty much dead calm now, so this should be a bit more productive in terms of trying to get a nice trim and do stall testing and stuff. And I also realized that I'd made a mistake here with the elevator. I tried to limit the travel of this by moving this peg inward and slowing down how far the servo could move, but it's kind of the opposite thing to what I wanted to do. So now I've made it much more smoother in elevator travel. The reason it was stuttering before is because the servo wasn't actually moving physically very far here, so it was only sort of jumping between the discrete movements that it could do, I think. Anyway, let's try this. That's better. Oh yeah. That's almost no throttle. That's maybe 30% throttle. And hands off, what do we get? Look at that! I haven't done any trimming. Okay, it's rolling to the left a little more than I want. Man, it just feels so relaxed. It's totally different to this afternoon. Let's come down here nice and low. Beautiful, man. It's a completely different beast now, without all that turbulence. And I don't know what was going on this afternoon, but there was some really strange wind activity. Not seeing any of that now. I'm gradually losing height here, so this throttle, yeah, I'm going to have to pump up the throttle a bit here, because that would have hit the fence if I didn't. So glide. Oh, beautiful. Glide. See if I can turn around and glide past here still. Whoops. Stall. Wasn't expecting that. Yeah, see. Oh well, it's still pretty high when it came back though. Just gotta watch that stall, don't we? Motor off. Oh boy. Yep, she's a tip staller. And right rudder. Yep. The rudder works, that's for sure. Come back in front of us, can we? Oh, this is weird. I'm actually, as long as I keep the speed up, actually feels reasonably comfortable to fly close in like that. Careful. Oh shit. What was I saying? What are we going to find? Apart from lots of enormously long grass. Oh boy, yeah. Well, I was kind of thinking about making this nose a bit shorter anyway, but not this soon. But I guess it's going to be sooner rather than later. That is surprisingly intact. That is actually quite convenient, you know. I would have been pretty annoyed if it broke here, because that's where I put all my reinforcing. And I'd want to keep this intact, but if I was going to shorten it, yeah, like that. So that's what I was thinking to do anyway. So what I will do, I guess, is just chop it from about here and stick that onto there. But anyway, everything else seems to be alright. Oh, that came out. Yeah, these things have a habit of breaking like that, see? Plywood battery mount came off as well. That's no big deal. So yeah, that gives you an idea of how tough these fiberglass and foam constructions are. They're pretty tough. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't break any of this area around here, because this, I really like these lines going in like that. Motor mount's fine. All this spindly bits here that are fairly susceptible to breaking is still fine. Anyway, this video is now way too long, so I'll just finish up here. Don't think we'll see this in the air for a while yet, so I'll be uploading this video sooner than I thought, I think. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time when this is ready to fly again.